You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Excited to welcome today's guest. Ivan, please get us started.
Yeah, I'm Zach. Excited to introduce you to our repeat offender, friend, and a colleague entrepreneur, Sebastian Gabor. Sebastian is a serial entrepreneur, educator, and co-founder of Digitail, the software that I use in 8 of our hospitals. Digitail is all-in-one practice management software and the first practice management system with native AI capabilities. Sebastian is passionate about technology and how it can deliver modern experiences to pet owners and veterinary teams. Welcome back, Sebastian.
Hey everyone, so great to be here.
So many cool things. You're AI native. We just heard about AI, OpenAI round of $100 billion. Did you get a piece of it?
Would love to. But just like it's insane how fast things are moving. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways for me in all of this is that if 5 months ago I had an opinion on like how can I use AI personally, just the last update from Claude changed everything. And now even the most anti-AI engineers in the world, they're like using it for everything they can. And it's the same in all the other workflows. So I think this is a really big eye-opener of like what AI can do, what AI was able to do for you. And like 5 months ago, it completely changed of what it can do today. And I really encourage everyone to try anything they can.
It's so wild too. Like even just thinking about, like our industry, I think does 53 billion a year across every orifice of the veterinary medical industry. And to think that a single company has raised 100 billion. What are they going to do with the money, Sebastian? Well, how's that going to impact people like you and me that are building software that leverages technology? Where are we going next?
That's a very good question. So for me, honestly, and I think for everyone that's building an AI tool, that's very exciting news because this funding, what happens, and part of it, so out of the 110 billion that they raised, part of it is offered by companies like Amazon, Nvidia, which comes in most likely as credits to run data centers. So basically, every time we ask a question to an AI agent, there's some processor somewhere running that query, and this credits go for running more of those credits. So it makes it cheaper for us and for all the users. That's amazing. The other part of the round, which was almost 50 billion plus, is pure cash that goes into hiring the best engineers, advancing the models, making each model smarter and faster. The way I see this, or easily to create an analogy, is like if ChatGPT 1, the first one that was launched, was more of a kindergarten person. Now with ChatGPT 5, we're more like end of high school. And the new versions are more like now we're at college and more like smarter models that can understand more and do a lot more. So that funding just goes in advancing these models, which translates for us is less errors, better output, more use cases that it can be used, and so on and so forth.
You just really deflated my perception of myself. High school and beats me in every category whenever I ask ChatGPT anything from legal to math to brainstorm. The jokes aside, Series B, you just raised funding. How did that go? How much harder it is to raise B versus A? Share the size of a round if that's not a secret. And what are you going to do to advance the product further?
Absolutely. So we were always amazingly lucky with the investors that we had. So as everyone knows, Digitail is independent. We're founder-led, and we very much care about building the best product for veterinarians out there. And every time we go out and fundraise, the goal for those rounds is to get Digitail in the hands of more people, advance the product, and to build more. So when we went out fundraise last year, we were lucky to have a lot of investor interest. And again, as anyone running a company knows, is that if you're in a case where you have optionality and you can pick your investors, you're lucky to pick the right one. So we were able to pick an amazing investors, which is Five Elm Capital from US. They're very specialized in vertical SaaS, and they can help us go navigate a lot of landmines, a lot of difficulties of growth, scaling problems. And for me, what's important is have these type of partners because it focuses us on doing the right things and avoiding a lot of the mistakes. So now with the 23 million that we raised, a big chunk of this goes into continuous product development. Again, one piece of having the right partners is that they understand the importance of the product. At the end of the day, this is what we give in the hands of all the vets. So the better the product becomes, the more successful we are. So they're very much focused on that. And the other piece is making sure that Digitail gets in the hands of more people. And as you know, with an operating system, onboarding is very difficult. So how do we make onboarding easier? Data migration, making that easier. So there's a lot of components where even though we're now in a really good spot where we can migrate from any system with the in-house data migration team, where we can do change management faster. There's always things that we can do more, even now, how to use AI in those processes.
Sebastian, your space is heating up more than I've seen it, I would say, in the last 5 to 7 years. It feels like AI is the thing that is motivating people to finally take a look at that question that a lot of your prospects never wanted to ask, which is, what does it look like to move to another operating system? What does it look like to move to another practice management system? So I want to validate that you're feeling that as well, because it seems obvious to me. The other thing that I want to just acknowledge and maybe get your feedback on is it also seems like there's a resurgence of new PIMs entering the marketplace, and maybe those two are connected. Just curious your thoughts on that.
Very interesting. So I would 100% say that it was never a moment like this when we saw so much interest in PIMS change. And as you know, 50+% of the market share in US alone is still using legacy systems, your Avimark cornerstones, or your old ones that they've been probably using for 25 years plus, which is insane to think. But yes, now it's we're seeing more and more the people asking the question, can I switch? What does the process look like? Is it as difficult as I thought it is, or actually it's easier? So definitely that demand is out there. Now, the second piece is we're also seeing new players join. The big challenge is that even though there's increases in speed of how quickly you can build, I still doubt that without spending 4 or 5 years of actually getting through all the pains, all the workflows, understanding the differences, it's very difficult to build a product that really scales and has the right workflow. So my take is that it's a welcome and it's so good for the end users that there's more competition. But I just also think that knowing through all the pains that we've went and all the learnings, it takes a long time to build a really good product.
So the new product, I'm using Digitail, a bunch of updates coming out. Tell us the latest and the greatest that you're proud of and excited to talk about.
Okay, there are a lot of points that the team is constantly working and delivering, but some of the big changes is that, as you all know, Tails was the AI assistant that we've launched almost 4 years ago. And an AI assistant built directly in your practice management system that has access to all the data and helps it supercharge you in all the workflows. Even last year, Tails was embedded in more than 20 workflows. And we've learned that the hard way. We've learned that there's areas where AI is extremely bad at, and there's areas where it's extremely good at. As we all know, AI dictation is one very powerful one that more and more people are using it. But AI dictation is not all of it. There's a lot more use case where AI has a positive impact. Simple examples could be AI summary, where instead of going, when the patient comes in, instead of going through every single PDF, every single SOAP, client communication, you just click summarize and it gives you the highlights that you need to know for that visit. And it even highlights a random message from the pet parent from 5 years ago where they mentioned an allergy. So it's very powerful at going, extracting the data and surfacing it for you that you can read in a couple of seconds. Other examples is Tails intake, where for the pet parents, instead of spending 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of the visit to share all the history and the context, they can do that from the comfort of their couch at home on the phone. And they have an AI personalized intake where it asks all the questions that need to ask for the visit, and it provides a summary for the doctor so that the moment you go into the consultation room, you already have the highlights that you need to know from the patient history. So end to end, again, we can talk about this for ages. There's 20 plus workflows where this is embedded. But the biggest change that we've done last year is we've switched to a concept of holistic AI and agentic AI. And what does that mean is that all these workflows, even though they're in the same system, they can be disconnected. So what we've ended up doing is we've built a dedicated agent for each role in the practice. So now we have Tails Medical for the medical teams, we have Tails Concierge for the CSR teams, and Tails Practice Management for the management teams. And all of those have different capabilities that you can use across the entire funnel.
So I'm still dumb on, well, continuously on the whole concept of agent versus just the chat. So can you explain it to a 5-year-old? So basically, in ChatGPT, there's a way of using agents, and then you mentioned agentic. And then I know that I use my Tails, I open up, I ask it, I have a use case when I drop file into it and I ask, what's going on in the history of this. It helps me to write, X-ray descriptions. It reads into blood work. What does agentic mean? How does that pick up the workflow? Is it connecting the steps? What can you just break it down for me?
Absolutely. The simplest way to look at this is that the chat in general gives you the information that you need when you need it, but you're still there. You still extract. You need to ask and you need to get the information. Agentic is the time when you actually are able to delegate a more complex task to the agent. Let's say you want to follow up after every single visit that requires a lab work. You want to follow up with the pet parent 2 days afterwards. You can tell your agent to do that for you. So in this way, what it does, it will think of what are the tasks that it needs to do. First, check if there was any visit with lab work. B, made sure that the lab work came in and that the notes are done. Once all of this is done, make sure that the time passes, so the 2 days, and it will actually reach out to the pet parent on your behalf, either via text or via phone call. So it will do that for you, which is different than the basic where you're asking, can you tell me this information or can you retrieve this? This is now the time where you're actually giving it the chance to do a task on your behalf. Other examples is with intake. So you ask it to go and to ask the pet parent a series of questions and retrieve that information. What's important to know is that there's two big new concepts that are coming. And one is AI enhanced workflows that have a human in the loop. So you're still part of that activity, even though it's you approving it or you tweaking it, but you're still part of that experience and you need to give the final confirmation. And AI created workflows where an agent would do things on its own even when you're not there.
It's fascinating and amazing, and I think it's wild, actually, the world that we're launching into. Sebastian, I got a trickier question maybe for you, which is there's so much that can be done with these AI tools. How do you guys at Digitail separate the signal from the noise? How do you decide what to build instead of building everything? Because there'll be people listen to this podcast that are like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And I'd love to use that. But then there's a lot of people out there that, might not be looking for so much and it might just be overwhelming. So how do you guys decide how to put the focus where it needs to be?
So first, it's 100% overwhelming. Like the amount of new use cases and how you can use AI in your day to day is absolutely mind blowing. I do believe it's a journey. So if you're not using anything at the moment, you can ignore 90% of what we're talking here and just try out dictation or try out ChatGPT, try out something simple, get to know it. If you're now more of a power user, there are more and more use cases that can help. And the way for us, the North Star metric or the guiding star for this is what is the impact that workflow has on the veterinary and the staff members? Is it a time saver? Is it helping them create a new workflow or bring a new opportunity? What do I mean by that? Right now, we know that in the industry, the visits are down. So saving an extra 10% of the visit time might not be the most impactful thing when we work with hospitals. But how can we make sure that the experience and the relationship with the pet parents is working better? And how do we make sure that we can get the pet parents back into the clinic for the next follow-up, for the recheck, for the annual visits? So one of the examples we mentioned before of AI created workflow is the following, and we call it a continuous care dashboard. So imagine all the data that you have in your practice management system, all the medical records, all the client notifications, all the notes, all the lab works, absolutely all that information. And now the AI agent, the Tails Medical that you've trained, goes through all that information in real time and surfaces for you information such as what are the patients that should come for a dental in the next 3 months? Which are the patients that haven't come in for an annual in the last 2 months? Who are the patients that had a reminder and maybe they missed it? Or even better, the patients that are on chronic conditions that you are monitoring at home and the data that they filled in the app, now that you received it, it's not within normal limits and they need to come in. So all those use cases, Tails is now able to read that in real time and surfaces for you all those patients and the fact that you need to reach out to them. So this is helping now clinics create a better engagement with existing patients without the effort of going through tons of reports, manually querying all the information. You let the agent do that for you instead of you needing to do it. And we saw really, really great feedback from the people that started using it, is because this is also a muscle that not all of the practices have been doing, but the fact that it surfaces all the information and it gives you even like what you need to write to the pet parent, it's been a massive game changer for a lot of the clinics.
I'm going to ask two workflows, and I know we agreed, Sean, not to ask two questions. So I'm going to ask a question about workflow, but about two workflows. So you can tell me if is it possible or not. Sebastian, I'm going to give away the biggest secrets of what we do in our network as a hospital, whether it could be accomplished semi-automatic. One is we have the highest reviews on Google across our network and every hospital. It's always 4.9 because it is always an asshole that will give you 1 star and you can't erase it. But the way that we do it is that every single appointment that comes into the hospital, we call or we text next day and we ask them about their experience. And if they say it's amazing, thank you so much, I can't believe you texted me next day, which 100% of people say that, then we slip them the Google link and say, then review us, please. And if they're like, I hated you, I'm never coming again, we just don't send it. Can that be accomplished by agent, that whole workflow?
So the answer is yes. There's also the non-AI workflow, because still there are many areas where non-AI will still be a good solution. So you can still use that as in, if the review is lower than, let's say, 4 stars, you want to get that feedback directly. If it's higher than 4 stars or equal to 4 stars, it goes straight to Google Maps or to the platform of your choice. But to answer your question on AI, yes, the agent does that, and it's part of the CSR, Tail CSR agent, where you can train it to do a follow-up. So similar to how we were doing the intake before the visit. Now this does a post-visit follow-up, where it's not only the asking for feedback, but it can also ask questions and make sure that if there's any additional information that you need from the pet to see the evolution or anything else after a few days, it will also bring back all that information straight into the medical record.
But can I read the sentiment of the response and then based on the positive sentiment say, here's the link to Google reviews?
Easily. Yes. It reads the sentiment.
Wow.
Sebastian, lots of change happening in our industry, big moves. We're tiny compared to the AI industry. But what do you think the next 12 months, the next 24 months looks like for the veterinary industry? What changes are we going to see when it comes to innovation that affects the industry?
Well, I think if we look at some of the previous episodes when we were thinking about forecasts, like 24 months, probably we would be courageous enough to answer. But right now, honestly,
next 3,
next 3, I'm happy to try out. But more than, no, it's crazy. But literally 6 months, like we have no ideas. If the changes that happened in November made it possible for engineers now to really code a lot of use cases with AI, again, maybe there's a change in 2 months that will make it possible to really empower the agents to do a lot more for us. So what I would say is that in the next 3 months, there will be a lot more adoption on basic use cases, similar to automating follow-ups, automating tasks, getting more information from your systems, coaching opportunities on the vet side. There's definitely a lot more, but one of the big ones is having a role of an AI engineer in practice. And what do I mean by that? It's not actually an engineer graduate or anything else. It's someone in the clinic that has some time to review all the actions that the AI does for you. Because we talked that there are some actions that are human in the loop, which means, let's say you do a dictation and at the end you verify, you confirm everything is okay and you continue with your day. But there are also the ones that are without the human in the loop, that are now automated. So that person, the role of that person is really to go and to make sure that the AI agent does the things the way you would want to do them at the clinic. Does it use the same language that we want to use? Does it mention the things that we wanted to mention? Does it ask for the review after a positive client sentiment at the end of the visit? So if there would be one bet or forecast for at least the next 3 to 6 months, I'm seeing more this role, because the difference between an AI agent that is fine-tuned and an AI agent that is not trained is huge. It's very huge. It's from someone knowing what to say, when to say, and someone that's out of context. So that would probably be a big bet.
I completely agree. I think the other thing is knowing how to say it. I think we're going to see a lot of customization of AI to be truly like a digital twin of the user, which is kind of cool. So what's the most exciting thing you're working on today?
Today. So, well, non-AI, we launched a bunch of things, such as quick search. So if you're in the middle of seeing a patient and you want to quickly add a task or quickly see lab work from another patient, you can now, with like a press of a button, you can see that without going in any other window. So that's a quick search, makes it amazingly easy to go anywhere in the platform. VoIP is another one that's launching in as part of the system, where you can call from the system and get back. The reason why we ended up building this, and I think Sean goes to your question, is how do we pick the things that have the most impact, is that having the conversation as part of the system, it enables Tails, the AI agent, to extract not only the history, but also the client sentiment analysis, and also create a task for you in the system directly without you needing to touch anything. So we're trying to always like find those amazing use cases that bring a lot of impact. But if it comes on the AI journey, I would say the biggest one and the most exciting to see more and more adoption on is by far the continuous care dashboard. the fact that we can empower clinics to actually look at all their customer base in real time. And one thing that we didn't mention is that for every clinic that's using Digitail, there's also a pet parent app. So when pet parents leave and go home, they can still update information in the app. And in the past, there were many pet parents that were updating the information, but you as the clinic, you need to have a full-time staff member sometimes to check all the updates from pet parents that are adding all the like weight updates and everything else in the app. But now you do have a new team member that's doing that. You have Tails or any AI agent that's able to read that in real time and surface the important information for you. So that's where a lot of the excitement comes from. And I think this is just the beginning of what AI can do.
Which leads to my question that I wanted to ask, but we're out of time. So I wanted to ask you about this really cool workflow that we're adopting. It will bring tons of customers to us that I wanted to share with the entire audience, but I'm not going to because we're out of time. So I'll ask it off camera. Sebastian, two things, what we ask at the end: book, YouTube, TED Talk, anything that inspired you recently that you want to share with the audience.
Okay, I probably have two. One is maybe it's already popular and people have read it, but Outlive by Peter Attia, and talking more about like preventive care and how do we get in front of disease and prevent it. And another one for practice owners and managers, Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. It's a really, really good book on how to supercharge your team members, giving them more autonomy and letting them be the best they can be. And you'll see how much it changes the business over time.
Awesome. And then the last one for you is another innovator from the vet space that you think we should invite on the show.
I would probably throw quick two names. One is Dr. Douglas Sifranek from the Wolf Doctors on Wheels. He's been one of the first AI doctors of anything Tails, and he guided us through the process. And it was insane from how he went from, again, full notes to he empowers the team to do everything with AI. Really, really great use cases. So we've learned a lot from him in the process. And probably Chris Martin, who's the co-founder of Hefner Road Animal Hospital, who leveraged AI practice manager, KPI analysis. He's running the business with a sidekick all of the time. So really another lot of great use cases on that front.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.